When Prince William rushed down the quiet corridor of Windsor that morning, he expected a routine briefing, not a revelation that would shatter everything he thought he knew. A royal guard stood trembling, clutching a letter that had been hidden for years. And just minutes later, before William could even process the truth, Catherine collapsed right in front of him. What was in that letter? Why did it carry a secret powerful enough to shake the future of the monarchy? Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, hit like so more people can find this story, and subscribe if you enjoy deep human moments behind royal walls. And hey, if you think someone else would be moved by this, feel free to share it. Now, let's begin. The morning had begun like any other inside. Windsor's quiet eastern wing, soft footsteps echoing along the stone floors. Distant murmurs from staff preparing for the day, and a delicate chill drifting through open corridors. Prince William was halfway through reading a security brief when he noticed something unusual. A shadow lingering just outside the doorway, rigid and UNMOV. And Novi, at first, he thought it was simply another guard rotating duty. But this figure didn't shift, didn't breathe, didn't even blink. It was as if the man had been carved out of stillness. William lowered the paper. "Come in," he said. The door eased open, revealing Commander Aldrich Shaw, one of the longest-serving members of the Royal Guard. A man known for perfect posture, precise movements, and a level of emotional control that bordered on legendary. Yet today, something in his eyes was trembling, Sir Aldrich whispered. His voice cracked on the single syllable. William straightened. "Commander, what's happened?" Aldrich stepped forward and removed his gloves. It's already unusual. But then he took out something William had never expected to see. A sealed envelope. Old enough for the edges to have yellowed, but untouched Eno to show it had been deliberately preserved. William's brow tightened. "What is this?" "Your Highness," Aldrich swallowed hard. "This was found in a restricted archive during last night's security review. It wasn't meant to surface. It should never have resurfaced. But I cannot ignore what I read." William felt a chill roll down his neck. Aldrich was not a man prone to dramatics. If he was shaking, something was very wrong. He enveloped bore no crest, no royal insignia, just a name written in a careful, almost frightened hand, to the one who will inherit the truth. William hesitated only a moment before breaking the seal. Inside lay a letter written with ink that had softened with time. The handwriting was uneven, as though the writer had been rushed or distressed. William's heartbeat picked up. There was an undeniable heaviness in the air, like the room itself had taken a breath and refused to let it out. He began reading. "If this reaches you, then the promise I made has been broken. If you are to lead, you must know, the decision made on the night of the Windsor incident was not what the public was told." William's eyes lifted sharply. "The Windsor incident?" he whispered. Aldrich nodded but said nothing. His jaw had locked, as though containing the rest of the truth required physical force. William continued reading, but every word felt heavier than the last. There was a choice. A terrible one. And I carry the blame for what followed. This was hidden to protect two people, the child, and the woman who would one day stand beside the future king. William froze. A cold current shot through him sharp, electric, impossible to push aside. "Catherine," he whispered under his breath. He read on faster now, heart pounding hard enough to drown out the ticking of the antique clock behind him. "If you are reading this, then the truth has finally reached its rightful place. I never meant for her to suffer for it, and I pray you will understand why it was kept from you." A breath escaped him, shaky and uneven. Catherine, why would a decades-old letter mention her? How could something linked to a past incident, one he barely remembered being spoken about, connect to his wife? He looked up again. "Commander, what is this referring to? What does Catherine have to do with?" Aldrich stiffened, as if bracing for impact. "Sir, that is why I came directly to you. The letter. It implicates multiple decisions made long before you married, before she ever joined the family. But the implications for her?" His voice failed. H shut his eyes for a moment, regrouping. William stepped closer. "Aldrich, speak plainly."
The guard's composure finally cracked. "With respect, sir, this letter suggests Catherine was unknowingly entangled in a decision made by senior officials years before she met you. Something that was buried to protect the monarchy from collapse. William felt the floor tilt under him. This is absurd. I understand, Aldrich whispered. I struggled to believe it myself. But the records attached to this, they match dates, signatures, and statements that were sealed in the lower archives. Someone hid them intentionally. And you're telling me this now? Why bring it forward after all this time? Because, Aldrich said, eyes sharpening with a pain William had never seen in him, the archive was scheduled for transfer this week. If I had looked a day later, this would have vanished. Burned, shredded, or locked away again. Someone wanted this truth gone forever. Silence swallowed the room. William stared at the letter, fingers gripping the paper with growing tension. His mind churned with questions he wasn't ready to ask, much less answer. What truth? What had been hidden? And why did it sound like Catherine, his Catherine, was at the center of it? A knock suddenly broke through the thick quiet. Both men turned. The door opened gently, and Catherine stepped inside. She wore a soft blue dress, her hair tied loosely, the morning light glowing at her shoulders. She smiled, warm, unguarded, gentle. That smile cracked something inside William. William? They told me you were here. I wanted to. She paused, noticing the tension. What's wrong? Aldrich immediately bowed and stepped aside, straight as a blade. He looked almost guilty for being present. William swallowed. He didn't want this moment. Not now. Not yet. Kate, we found something. He lifted the letter slightly, though his hand trembled. Something you may need to hear. Catherine's expression softened into confusion. A letter? Yes. He breathed out. A letter about the Windsor incident. For a flicker of a moment, just a fraction of a heartbeat, Catherine's face changed. Not fear, not shock, but something like recognition. A sudden, tiny widening of her eyes. William noticed it. Aldrich noticed it. Catherine took one step forward. William, what does it say? William hesitated. But he knew this wasn't something to hide. Not from her. So he read aloud the line that had shaken him the most. The decision was made to protect the child and the woman who would one day stand beside the future king. Catherine went pale. Not slightly. Not subtly. Her knees buckled. Kate! Before William could reach her, before Aldrich could even react, Catherine's eyes fluttered, her breath hitched, and she collapsed onto the polished floor. Catherine, the sound of her body hitting the ground shattered the stillness of Windsor's eastern wing. Guards rushed in. William dropped to his knees, voice cracking with fear he had never allowed himself to feel in public. And as he held her, one thought hammered in his mind, relentless and terrifying. What truth could be so powerful that simply hearing it made Catherine collapse? The moment Catherine hit the ground, the atmosphere inside the eastern wing snapped from quiet tension to absolute chaos. William's breath froze in his chest as he caught her shoulders, lowering her gently, desperately, trying to keep her head from striking the floor. Kate, Catherine, look at me. Come on, love, stay with me. Her eyes were half closed, unfocused, flickering like a candle about to go out. Her skin had turned ghost pale, drained of every warm color he knew so well. Commander Aldrich, a man who could stand unshaken during emergencies most people couldn't imagine, suddenly looked like he'd lost the ground beneath him. Medical, he barked into his radio, voice trembling. Emergency in the East Hall. Move now. Boots thundered from every direction, but William didn't hear them. He didn't hear anything except the weak, shallow breaths slipping from Catherine's lips. He brushed her hair back, hands shaking uncontrollably. Kate, please. Open your eyes. Say something. Her fingers twitched against his palm. Barely a movement, yet it gave him something to hold on to. A guard slid in, placing a knee on the ground. Sir, the paramedic team is on the way. William nodded without looking up. His entire world was the woman lying in his arms. Her chest rose lightly, then stuttered. Not a collapse from exhaustion, not a faint from stress. This was something deeper, heavier, triggered by something she knew. William, she whispered, barely more than breath. He leaned close. I'm right here. Her lips parted as if to speak, but all that escaped was a soft exhale. Then her head tilted, and her consciousness slipped away completely. William's heart clenched painfully. For one terrifying moment, he thought she had stopped breathing. Catherine! The medics burst through the corridor doors, pushing a small emergency cart between them. They quickly dropped to their knees beside William, their movement swift but controlled, pulses weak, blood pressure dropping, possible shock response. Shock. William felt his stomach flip. Shock caused by what? Her own memories? The letter? The connection she hadn't explained? Your Highness, we need space. William stepped back instinctively, though every part of him screamed to stay beside her. Aldrich placed a steadying hand on his arm. Sir, don't. William snapped, not out of anger but fear. He pulled away and stood, trembling, watching as the medics placed an oxygen mask over Catherine's nose and mouth. One of them turned to him. We need to move her to the medical wing. Her vitals are unstable. Then go, William said, voice breaking. Go now. They lifted her onto a stretcher. Her hair fell slightly across her cheek, the soft blue fabric of her dress wrinkled under the straps. William reached out without thinking, touching her hand as they began to move. His thumb brushed her knuckles, still cold. As they disappeared down the corridor, William followed closely, but Aldrich stepped in front of him, blocking the path with a rare boldness. Sir, please wait. You must hear the rest first. William's eyes sharpened. I don't care about the letter right now. My wife... Sir, Aldrich said firmly, your wife collapsed because of the letter. That stopped him. Dead still. Aldrich glanced around, ensuring no unauthorized ears lingered. There is more. There are attached files, and if what's inside them is true. Catherine fainted because she recognized something before you did. William felt heat surge into his chest. Anger, fear, disbelief. What do you mean she recognized something? She was a child during the Windsor incident, barely old enough to understand anything at all. That is what we assumed, Aldrich said, but the files suggest otherwise. William narrowed his eyes. Show me. Aldrich hesitated. Sir, once you see this, you cannot unsee it, and it will change how you look at everything that came after. Then show me now. Aldrich swallowed hard and opened the folder he'd been holding against his side. It contained several documents, old, fragile papers, and a photograph sealed between protective layers. He handed the first document to William. William scanned the heading. Report. Windsor Emergency Evacuation. Confidential Addendum. Date. April 25th, 1992. Status. Sealed by Royal Directive. His eyes dropped to the next line, and his stomach lurched. Evacuated individuals. One unidentified child, female, approximately 10 years old. One civilian woman, mother, identity undisclosed. The child's identity required immediate protection due to involvement in the classified event on site. William froze. A 10-year-old girl, evacuated from Windsor, kept anonymous, protected by a royal directive, and then Catherine's pale, collapsing face flashed in his mind. Sir, Aldrich said softly, there is more. He handed William the sealed photograph. It was small, aged, slightly blurred. The image captured a frightened little girl being led by a guard through a smoke-filled corridor, her hair long and chestnut brown, eyes wide with fear. A young girl William had never met, or so he thought, until he looked closer. His breath vanished. His body turned cold. His fingers almost dropped the photograph, because the girl in the picture, despite the years, despite the blur, he could recognize those eyes anywhere. Catherine, a young Catherine, being escorted out of Windsor Castle during the very incident officials claimed she had never been anywhere near. William stepped back, dizzy. This isn't possible. She never said. Aldrich shook his head sadly. Perhaps she couldn't. Perhaps she was told not to. William stared at the photograph again, confusion crashing into fear. If she was there, he murmured, then why was her involvement hidden? Aldrich hesitated before answering. Because, sir, the report also claims that the girl, Catherine, was the only witness who saw what really happened that night. William felt his heartbeat thud painfully. each pulse echoing inside his skull. And what did she see? Aldrich's voice dropped to a whisper. The report doesn't say. It only states, the child holds knowledge that can endanger the stability of the crown. William stared blankly at the paper. His wife, his Catherine, a child pulled into the heart of a royal cover-up. And no one told him. A sudden wave of footsteps interrupted the corridor. A young guard ran toward them, breathless. Your Highness, the medical wing needs you. Now! William didn't wait for another word. He broke into a run, documents clutched in a trembling hand. Aldrich followed, but even he couldn't keep up with the urgency in William's steps. As William rounded the final corner and reached the glass doors of the medical room, he saw Catherine lying on the bed, still unconscious, surrounded by monitors and staff. The doctor stepped out as William approached. Your Highness, she said quietly. We stabilized her, but she woke briefly, and she said something we need to tell you. William's pulse hammered. What did she say? The doctor swallowed, nerves tightening her voice. She woke, looked right at us, and whispered, Don't let William read the last page. William froze. Aldrich froze. The doctor continued, uneasy. She repeated it twice, then passed out again. William stared through the glass at his unconscious wife, his heart twisting painfully. The last page. The truth she didn't want him to see. But why? What was she trying to protect him from? Or was she afraid the truth would destroy something far more fragile? William looked down at the envelope still in his hand. One page remained sealed at the back. And for the first time in years, the future King of England felt genuinely afraid to turn a page. The medical wing had settled into a tense, unnatural quiet. Machines hummed, monitors blinked steadily, and Catherine lay motionless under soft white lights, peaceful but frighteningly fragile. William stood by the glass wall, the sealed envelope clenched between his fingers like a lifeline he wasn't sure he wanted to hold. Don't let William read the last page. Her warning echoed in his mind, circling like a storm refusing to pass. What truth could make Catherine, calm, poised, grounded Catherine, fight so hard to keep him from seeing it? Aldrich stood at his side, hands clasped behind his back, posture disciplined yet weighed down by something like guilt. Sir, he said quietly, we need to approach this carefully. William didn't turn. His eyes were fixed on Catherine. Carefully? His voice was soft, dangerous. My wife fainted in my arms. She woke just long enough to beg me not to read the last page of a letter that mentions her as a child, even though she never told me she was there. You want careful? Then tell me everything. Now. Aldrich inhaled. The last page contains a classified addendum, the one that was sealed by a directive older than both of us. It's not just personal, it's political. The final page was always intended for the successor, but no one expected it to reach you like this. William's jaw clenched. Then let's read it and end this. But his hand trembled as he slid the final page free. The paper was thinner, older, written in a different hand. Sharper strokes, harder pressure, as if the writer had pushed the pen with fear, urgency, or both. William unfolded it carefully. At the top was a name, a signature that made his chest tighten. Sir Alistair Marwick, former head of royal security, a man long dead, a man everyone remembered as fiercely loyal, a man William had met as a young child. He began reading. If you are the one reading this, then the child is grown, the truth has survived, and the decision we made in the Windsor incident must finally be understood. I take full responsibility for my role. William's pulse hammered. The explosion was no accident. It was caused by a device planted inside the North Gallery, and the only witness to the individual who placed the device was a girl, Catherine. William staggered back a step, breath caught in his throat. Catherine had seen the person who planted the device? Aldrich spoke softly. She wasn't just evacuated, sir. She was a key witness. William continued reading, heart racing. We hid her identity to protect her. The individual she saw was a high-ranking official, one whose exposure could have caused collapse in public trust. The monarchy faced its most dangerous moment. William blinked, stunned. A high-ranking official? His mind reeled. A traitor? Inside Windsor? But that wasn't all. The child described the man in detail. His height, his voice, the way he limped. She did not know his name, but she remembered his face with perfect clarity. We had a choice: protect the child or expose a powerful man who held enough influence to fracture the crown. William felt cold. Too cold. Aldrich's voice dropped into a whisper. That detail, the limp, the voice, if this is true, then the man she saw was part of the inner circle. Someone trusted. William's breath quickened. His vision pulsed at the edges. He kept reading. We chose to bury the truth. The child and her mother were relocated quietly. Their names were removed from all official accounts. The public was told the explosion was a structural fault. And Catherine was told, to protect her, that she must never speak of that night again. William's stomach twisted. Catherine had lived her entire life with this. A secret forced upon her as a child. When she grew older, her family believed the incident was little more than a childhood memory erased by trauma. Only she remembered enough to know the truth, but not enough to safely reveal it. William's throat tightened painfully. So Catherine had lived with a secret that could shake the crown, and she had carried it alone. His hands trembled as he reached the final paragraph. And then he froze, because the last lines, written in darker ink as if added later, hit him like a physical blow. If the child one day stand beside the future king, as the letter predicts, then know this: the man she witnessed is still alive. He still serves. He has waited decades for this truth to stay buried. William's breath caught. Still alive, still serving, still inside. Aldrich clenched his fists. That means someone in the modern circle remains a threat. But who? William pressed. Who still serves after all these years? Aldrich didn't answer. He didn't have to. Both of them knew the number of men senior enough, old enough, and still active enough to match the description was painfully small. William closed his eyes. Suddenly, every quiet moment, every shadowed corridor, every interaction with senior officials looked different, darker. But the next sentence threw him into even deeper silence. And if Catherine collapses upon hearing this truth, it is because she recognizes it has been near her recently. William's blood turned to ice. Near her? Recently? Aldrich inhaled sharply. Your Highness, she fainted because she didn't just remember the face. She recognized someone she saw again as an adult, someone who approached her, someone who stood close enough to trigger her memory. William stumbled backward, hand gripping the railing for support. He thought of recent events, functions, briefings, staff meetings, visits from security advisors. Catherine had been at several of them. He remembered one moment especially. A quiet afternoon when Catherine had mentioned a guard making her uneasy. William had brushed it off, thinking she was tired. His stomach twisted with regret. Aldrich turned to him. We need to identify him immediately. Catherine may be the only link between the past and the threat still standing at the heart of the institution. But William wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on the glass wall separating him from Catherine. His Catherine, the woman who had carried this burden since childhood. The woman who had collapsed not out of fear, but out of recognition. He whispered, voice cracking. She fainted because she saw him, because she realized the man who planted that device is still close enough to touch. A quiet knock broke through the heavy silence. A junior guard approached nervously. Your Highness, there's someone waiting outside. He says he needs to speak with you urgently. He didn't give a name, but he says he served during the Windsor incident. Aldrich's eyes widened. William's heartbeat spiked. Where is he? William demanded. In the West Hall, sir. William exchanged a sharp look with Aldrich. Neither needed to speak, the fear forming between them. If the man waiting in the West Hall really did serve during the Windsor incident, he was either the key to the truth or the man Catherine had been running from her entire life. The night sky above the valley cracked with white lightning as the final wave of the predator horde advanced. Their shadows stretched long across the broken stone, like a tide of blades and armored hides. The ground shook beneath their march, and the air burned with the sound of thousands of war claws striking metal shields. Yet in the center of the valley, the humans did not move. They stood in a line that looked too thin, too fragile, too hopeless. But they did not tremble. They did not retreat. They stood with a calm that felt unnatural to every other species watching. Because the humans knew something the predator horde did not. They were not waiting for rescue. They were the rescue. At the front of the human line stood Commander Co. Jisoo, her armor cracked, her hair soaked with dust and rain, her eyes burning like she was ready to bite a thunderbolt in half. She raised her hand, palm open, as if telling a child to stop running in a hallway. The entire predator horde froze for a heartbeat. Jisoo's voice rose like a siren. This valley is under human protection. Turn around. A command given not with arrogance, but certainty. Certainty born from every victory humanity had carved out with torn hands and stubborn hearts. The predator leader laughed from atop his armored beast. A harsh, wet growl. All species fear the horde. Jisoo tilted her head slightly. Humans don't. She didn't shout it. She didn't need to. Every human soldier behind her stepped forward at the same moment, their boots hitting the ground like a single giant heartbeat. The valley trembled with it. Even the rain seemed to pause. High on the cliffs, the rescued alien cubs watched silently, their ears back, their bodies shaking, not with fear anymore, but with something new. Trust. They had seen these humans wade into danger again and again. They had watched humans face monsters twice their size without blinking. And now, these same humans stood ready to fight an army large enough to drown the whole region. The cubs pressed closer together. The littlest one whispered, "Humans are giants." The predator leader pointed his spear forward. "Then the giant will fall." He signaled the charge. The world exploded. The horde surged like a storm of claws and steel. Thunder rolled across the valley as artillery cannons fired. Human shields locked into place. Drones streaked overhead like burning comets. Alien soil ripped open under the impact of human firepower. Raw, brutal, precise. Jisoo didn't wait for the horde to reach her. She moved first. Humans always move first. She sprinted forward, kicking off shattered stone, launching herself into front line of predators with speed that made even the enemy hesitate. Her blade ignited in a white arc. Her other hand gripped a shield cracked from earlier battles, but still burning with defiance. She slammed into the first predator like a meteor. The ground cratered. Predators fell back, stumbling, confused. This human woman was smaller than any of them, yet her strikes hit like collapsing cities. Behind her, human soldiers advanced like a rising tide. They fought with everything humanity was famous for: violence, creativity, stubbornness, heart. A predator slashed open a human lieutenant's armor, yet the man didn't fall. He grabbed the predator's wrist, twisted with impossible strength, and pulled the creature into a chokehold while firing point-blank into its chest. A group of predators tried to flank from a northern ridge, until human engineers detonated the ridge itself, burying the attackers under 2 tons of rock. Another wave of predators attempted an aerial strike, only for human pilots to rise from behind storm clouds, diving like spear falcons, shredding the attackers with synchronized precision. The battle became chaos. Not random chaos. Human chaos. The kind that looks like madness until it suddenly becomes a perfect trap. The predator leader roared, frustrated, watching his soldiers fall. "How do they fight like this?" one of his generals cried. "They should be crushed already." The leader snarled, "Because humans fear extinction, so they learn how to become the thing everything else fears." On the cliffs, the cubs trembled as the valley lit with fire. They watched humans get knocked down, crushed, thrown, wounded, but every time a human got back up again, bleeding, broken, outnumbered, they stood again. Humans always stand again. The youngest cub whispered, "They fight like losing is impossible." An older cub shook his head. "No, they fight like losing is unacceptable." Then a sudden movement caught their eyes. A massive predator champion, towering, armored, claws glowing, charged straight toward a wounded human medic. The medic saw it too late. She held only a small knife. But someone else moved before she could even react. A human private slammed into her, knocking her clear, and took the full blow himself. The champion's claws pierced his armor, lifting him off the ground. But the private didn't scream. He grabbed the predator's wrist and smiled. "You're not touching my people." Then he triggered the explosive pack strapped to his hip. Light swallowed everything. When the smoke cleared, the predator champion was gone. The private lay on the ash, armor melted, breath fading, but the medic crawled to him, shaking. "Why would you do that?" she cried. He looked at her softly. "Because that's what humans do." The cubs clutched each other. "Because that's what humans do. They protect. They sacrifice. They fight as if the universe is watching, and it always is." The predator leader roared in fury. "Enough!" He leapt from his mount and charged toward Jesu, swinging his massive war spear. Their clash was like two storms colliding. Sparks rained across the battlefield. He struck. Jesu blocked. He slammed. She rolled. He stabbed. She ducked and countered with a blade arc that cut through his side armor. They traded blows like ancient gods. But the leader was stronger, faster, bigger. He finally caught her, slashing across her ribs, sending her crashing to the blood-soaked dirt. The valley went silent. The leader raised his spear high. "For all your bravery, you are still only human." Jesu's voice came weak, but sharp. "Exactly." She pressed a button on her wrist. The canyon walls erupted. Human artillery hidden beneath camouflage nets lit up the entire battlefield with a final, devastating barrage. Precision strikes hammered the enemy ranks. Shock waves ripped through the valley. Predators screamed as the sky itself seemed to fall on them. The horde shattered. Lines broke. Commanders fell. And the predator leader finally understood the truth. The humans hadn't been surviving this long. They had been waiting for him to step into the kill zone. Humans are terrifyingly patient. As the final explosion died out, Jesu rose slowly, holding her bleeding side. She looked at the predator leader, kneeling, stunned, defeated. She whispered, "Humans don't fall. We rise." The cubs on the cliff began to howl, a war cry copied from humans, filled with raw pride. The last of the predator army fled into the storm. The valley belonged to humanity now. Jesu raised her blade high, rain streaking across her armor, and the humans around her roared with victory. In that moment, across every species who watched the battle, through drones, through broadcasts, through rumors spreading like wildfire, one truth echoed to the galaxy. When humanity stands, the universe shakes.